Cajas Comunitarias, community-owned savings and lending institutions in Central America. The poor have always been excluded from the supposed benefits of the global financial economy. Wealth creates more wealth, and as the economy has grown, so has the scandalous levels of inequality. In a deplorable irony, the measurements that determine the health of the economy are blind to the well-being of the majority of the population. As long as the economy continues to grow, then it is healthy, even if the vast majority of the population perceives no benefit from that growth. As we've argued throughout this course, the exclusion of the marginalized from the status quo of the capitalist, industrial, consumer civilization has allowed the poor to maintain a resiliency that lets them develop alternative lifestyles that do not depend on the unsustainable systems that characterize modern civilization. In the case of indigenous peoples, their pre-industrial worldviews, cosmovisions, and ways of life represent sacred sources of wisdom that go back thousands of years. Other marginalized and poor people who have had their indigenous identities destroyed through the legacies of colonialism and imperialism have likewise been forced into finding ways to survive on the fringes and the margins of the hegemony of the status quo. We often consider the areas of finance and money to be under the control of the powerful. The banks, the insurance companies, multinational corporations, and other rulers of our modern world dictate how the economy operates. Though the marginalized are often considered to be cash poor and thus impeded from the fruits of the cash economy, their ingenuity has led them to find ways to make finance work for the poor. If a cash poor single mother of 4 were to go to a bank and ask for a $500 loan to start her own microbusiness, the bank most likely would laugh in her face. She would be considered a liability for the bank, and her lack of collateral or guarantees would most likely have her denied. Furthermore, most banks simply aren't interested in making small loans, as the real money is to be made on 30-year mortgages and other large, high-interest loans. In rural El Salvador, dozens of communities intimately know the difficulties of being excluded from the financial system. These communities have come together to start community-owned and operated savings and lending organizations. A small nonprofit organization provides a small startup capital of around $1,000. Each member of the community who wants to participate in the community savings and lending institution pays a $50 to $100 entry fee, which adds to the capital of the institution. The maximum loan amount is $500, while most loans are for $50 to $200, and help small farmers purchase seed for their fields or help women start up small community businesses such as bakeries, tortilla shops, etc. The community elects a council to oversee the savings and lending institution, and every year there are elections so that ownership of the institution doesn't rest on any one person. Since the community knows who it lends money to, and since the people who borrow money are members of the community, it is virtually unheard of for people to default on a loan. Furthermore, while small amounts of interest may be charged to some members of the community, the council who runs the savings and lending institution can decide to cancel the interest for people in the community who are more economically challenged. In this way, cash-poor people in rural villages around El Salvador are beginning to take back finance so that it benefits their communities.